I call to order this meeting of the Gladstone City Council for Tuesday, February 11th, 2025. It's 6:30 p.m. The City of Gladstone is abiding by guidelines set forth in House Bill 2560, which requires the governing body of the public body, to the extent reasonably possible, to make all meetings accessible remotely through technological means and provide opportunity for members of the general public to remotely submit oral and written testimony during meetings to the extent in-person oral and written testimony is allowed. Therefore, this meeting will be open to the public both in person and virtually using the Zoom platform. The Zoom instructions are on the agenda. If members of the public would like to comment on an agenda item, either virtually or in person, they were to have emailed their comments and request to speak to the city recorder prior to noon today. Individuals attending in person may submit a speaker card to the city recorder prior to the beginning of the meeting. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. The City Council will also have Gladstone City event announcements during the meeting and business from the audience, usually at the end of the meeting. To speak during either time, virtually or in person, again, you were to have emailed your request prior to noon today to the city recorder with name, topic of discussion, city of residence. Individuals attending in person may submit a speaker card to the city recorder prior to the beginning of the meeting. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. Tammy, will you call the roll, please?
Councillor Huckabee.
Present.
Councillor Mitchell.
Present.
Councillor Blaug.
Present.
Councillor Labonte.
Present.
Councillor Roberts.
Present.
Councillor Garlington.
Present.
Mayor Milch.
Present. Please stand for the flag salute. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll begin our meeting tonight with special recognition of a city employee, and I'll turn things over to City Administrator Jackie Betts.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, City Council. So in 2022, I introduced the Pineapple Award to the City Council to recognize employees who have gone above and beyond for our community organization. The Pineapple Award symbolizes wisdom, well-being, hospitality, and a deep appreciation for dedication to our organization. And in some cultures, pineapples are also considered symbols of good luck and protection, bringing positive energy and warding off negativity. Previous recipients include Police Chief John Schmerber, former Fire Chief Rick Huffman, Finance Consultant Kathy Brucker, and City Recorder Tammy Bannock. Today, we are thrilled to present the Pineapple Award to another distinguished member of our management team, Robert Hale. Robert has been with the City of Gladstone for around 15 years. Most of you know him as our IT manager. But last October, Robert stepped up to serve as the interim Public Works Director during the recruitment process for the permanent position. Robert's loyalty to me and the organization is unwavering. He exemplifies professionalism, integrity, and high ethical standards. He is motivated, a self-starter, and most importantly, can be trusted with the city's most critical infrastructure. Robert did an excellent job of lining out the public works crews each day, building the morale in the department, and he even jumped into ditches to help out with projects. With Robert's office located in the new Public Works facility, he will continue to be an asset to the new Public Works Director, Silas Richardson, and we will also explore expanding Robert's duties to include facilities, which he enjoys. We are excited to present Robert Hale with the Gladstone Pineapple Award. Thank you for your continued loyalty to the organization and for being an exceptional employee.
I'll give Robert a chance to say anything he wants to, doesn't need to. That's fine. Thank you, sir. All right. Are there any additions or corrections to the agenda tonight, Administrator Betts?
I have no changes, thank you.
I'm going to suggest one change. We had a last-minute request to speak from a local agency, and rather than have them wait until the end of the meeting, I'm going to move that up a little earlier in the agenda. We'll do a couple of our regular agenda items first, but if it's okay with the council, okay, I'm seeing heads nod. All right. Okay, we begin with our consent agenda. That includes these items: the approval of December 10, 2024 regular minutes, the approval of December bank balances, budget report for period ending 12/31/24, approval of December check register, legal costs for December 2024, department head monthly reports for January 2025, and to consider approval of a personal services agreement with 3J Consulting for planning and zoning services and project management of certain projects in public works. Does any member of the council want to pull any item from the consent agenda for separate consideration? I see none. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
It's moved by Councilor Huckabee, seconded by Councilor Roberts. Tammy, will you call the roll, please?
Councilor Garlington.
Yes.
Councilor Roberts.
Yes.
Councilor Labonte.
Yes.
Councilor Blau.
Yes.
Councilor Mitchell.
Yes.
Councilor Huckabee.
Yes.
Mayor Milch.
Yes, the consent agenda is approved unanimously. Do we have any correspondence to consider tonight?
I have nothing, thank you, Mayor.
All right. Do we have anyone who is requested to do Gladstone City event announcements?
I have one, and that is Robert Everett.
Mr. Everett, come up, please.
It's nice and warm in here. It feels good. I must admit. So, anyway, thank you again for allowing me to come up and spiel my spiel. And again, I'll start with bingo, which is next Friday. Seems late in the month this sort of time around, 21st, and it seems to be later on. But we are partnering, with the 8th grade graduation. That's always been successful for us. We do get a fair number of parents out, and I'd love to see you guys come on out and play a few games, have a beer or two or something like that. So, also the next month we're going to be partnering with FogNap. They're also a lot of fun. We have a good time, and then we're going to be sort of working with the people on the Arts Festival on the month after, because we sponsor the art festival in June. Also, I also want to talk about the festival as we gear up. I sent out the applications for vendors. If anybody's interested in becoming a vendor, I would just tell them to contact me. And the city's already responded, and a few other organizations. The one area that we are in most need of help on are volunteers, and really could use a volunteer coordinator. Bryce has done that in the past. It's very difficult for him to run the festival on the weekend, and also take care of who's supposed to be a volunteer, who's not. Or supposed to be there, and then get hold of him. So it'd be really nice. He'd really like to pass that job on if we could find somebody that would volunteer to be a volunteer coordinator. And basically it just means you have to organize people for when they're going to be there at the festival to help out. That's a task that would be greatly appreciated. Beyond that, we're moving ahead with other things. Also, clothes closet. I always like to tell people about the clothes closet on Saturday from 10 to noon every week, and we help out on one weekend. And lastly, I'm also on the Gladstone Senior Foundation, and I don't often mention, I haven't really mentioned that much, but the Senior Foundation works with the center and also other seniors to help them out. We've provided funds for the roof in the past, painting, things like that through our endowments. And so I just want everybody to be aware that there is a senior foundation. They could use donations, that's for sure. But we also, all our money goes to the senior cause here in Gladstone, helping somebody out or anything else. So if anybody knows of that, anybody that may need some help as senior, feel free to contact the Senior Foundation. That's all I have. Any
All right.
questions?
I have a quick question.
Yes.
When you say you push out opportunities for vendors, where are you disseminating that information?
I do it right now. I just have all I really did right now was just send an email to all the vendors in the past, because I like to give them a chance first to sort of sign up. Although I have been contacted. One other lady did contact me just today who has not been there before. It seems most of the time it just seems to get word around. It's really interesting because we always worry about it a little bit, and we try to push it out on notices through the city and other things, and so we'll end up with I don't know, 30, getting all of a sudden the last couple months, bang, all of a sudden we get, we'll get 60, 65 vendors. And we keep it pretty, like our fee is the same fee we've had for the last 5 years for a vendor spot, for if you sign up before May. And, I should say before June. We keep it at $125, and I don't think you'll find that really true anywhere else. That's pretty inexpensive for a 2-day event, all-day event, where we get as many people as we get. But it just seems to be word of mouth. But we also do push it out on the city newsletter and throughout on Facebook, things like that. Then too.
Thank you.
If you have any ideas, we'd be open.
I do. I'll talk to you.
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
Councilor
Yeah,
Garlington.
You're volunteer coordinator, so are you looking for someone to head up the whole thing, or are you looking for someone to take on signing people up and then a boots-on-the-ground person on the 2 days of the festival?
We're looking for somebody. The ideal thing would be somebody who's is basically just the volunteer coordinator. They would help us to reach out to try to get volunteers. They would contact them. They would keep a list of these people, and they would be the contact person that anybody would talk to. And they would also reach out. Last year, we had a falling off with the number of people that actually showed up on that day. And a lot of that is because none of us there's nobody that calls out to those people and say, hey, listen, are you going to be here on that day?
Okay.
And we really could use somebody like that, because it can't be Bryce. Last month we're just swamped. And so we just don't have time for that. And so a number of people didn't show up last year. So that's really, but we're also looking for volunteers. Just somebody wants to help for a couple hour stretch to look after, the bouncy house or something like that.
Let's put it out to the universe and see what happens. You said you
Yeah.
needed it out loud, so now it's going to happen for you.
All right. All right. That's what I'm always hoping for.
All right. Thank you,
other
Dr.
questions?
Bob.
Thank you.
For
Thank
all
you, everyone.
do, for all the Rotary does, and the
Yeah,
Senior
and I-
Foundation. Thanks for reminding us of all
All
that
right.
good work.
And I
that
thank
goes
the
on.
city for all they do for us and the help they give us for the festival and the other items too. Thank you very much.
Okay, we'll move in now to our regular agenda. There are no more for events, correct?
There are no.
Okay.
No others.
So tonight we have, first item on our regular agenda is the 2024 Gladstone Library Annual Report. And we have library staff here tonight with us. Mitzi Olson, the library manager, and Clackamas County Project Manager Jason Vargas. Jason Varga, excuse me. And we will hear the report from them. We opened our own library here, but that's only one half of a 2-building, one library system. So I hope we'll learn a little bit more about what's going on in that project. If you push the button on the microphone in front of you, the light will come on and stay on, and then you're there. Okay.
Do you know how this works?
I don't, but I had it on for a second.
Tammy?
Yep.
She's getting it on now.
Is it just this one? Want me just to tell you when to do the next slide? Okay, all right. Good evening, Mayor Milch, councilors, and City Administrator Betts. Thank you for the opportunity to update you on the Gladstone Library. I'm Mitzi Olson. I'm the library manager for the Gladstone and Oak Lodge Libraries. Also with us today is Jason Vargas, who's the project manager for the Gladstone Library. Next slide, please. Today we'll be talking about, can you go back to the previous one?
Go back.
Yeah. Today we'll be talking about the library statistics for fiscal year 23-24, the program highlights, the Gladstone Library grand opening that happened on September 28th, and then we're going to turn it over to Jason, and he'll talk about some of the things that are left over that need to be completed for the project. Next slide, please. Good. Yes. Thank you. Down, okay. Thank you for your patience. The City of Gladstone and Clackamas County entered into an agreement for the county to assume operation of the Gladstone Library beginning December 2019 and to build a new library in Gladstone. The new Gladstone Library opened to the public on September 25th, 2024. The statistics you are seeing on the screen are for fiscal year 23-24 ending in June and do not include any of the data since opening the new library. We have seen a steady increase in circulation since COVID, with a circulation total of over 141,000 physical items. Checkouts of ebooks and e-audiobooks are also on the rise, with a 31% increase since fiscal year 21-22. Summer reading finishers are down slightly, with 160 finishers. This number was likely impacted by our closure in August to prepare the move to the new library. Door counts are up to over 38,000 annual visitors. The number of internet sessions increased over 45% since fiscal year 21-22. Seed checkouts have grown over 53% since fiscal year 21-22, with 4,617 seeds being checked out this year. We have had a fun year offering diverse programming. We have added additional story times, including one specifically for babies. Baby story time is offered on Tuesdays at 11:30 a.m., and family story times are offered on Fridays at 3 p.m. and Saturdays at 10:30 a.m. Our Snacktivities program continues to be very popular with children grades K through 8. These programs are offered after early release Wednesdays between 1:30 and 3:30 p.m. We were able to bring summer reading signups to the classrooms at John Wetton Elementary and GCCF. Many of our families enjoyed seed packets that were designed with the youth gardener in mind. We started the GOAT Teen Advisory Group and are still working to grow our members that will advise on the programs we offer our teens. We continued our collaboration with Friends of the Gladstone Nature Park and the Gladstone Library Foundation on seasonal story walk displays at the Nature Park. The stories and activities are offered in English and Spanish. Seeds for Sharing is a volunteer-run program supported by the Gladstone Foundation. We worked with the Gladstone Foundation to solicit seed donations from multiple sources to expand our offerings. The new Gladstone Library has a seed cabinet that holds twice the number of seeds than before. Our monthly adult craft classes continue to be well attended and popular with our adult population. Music in the stacks has also been well received. Patrons enjoy listening to music while they browse the stacks for their next read. Rock Reader Book Club continues meeting in person at the new library. The meetings can also be attended via Zoom. The Lunch and Learn series at the Gladstone Community Center has also been popular with a variety of subjects, including internet safety and awareness, homebound services where we mail books to people unable to get to the library, how to search our library catalog, how to download ebooks from the library, and what to expect at the new library. The library participated in a number of community events, including the Gladstone Nature Park Arbor Day event, the Gladstone Community Festival, the Gladstone Halloween event, the Gladstone Community Center Market, the Gladstone City Summer Special events. At most of these events, we offered free garden seeds, children's books, and a craft. We are excited that our programs have been so successful, and we will soon be expanding our offerings for adults. On September 28th, we celebrated the Gladstone Library grand opening. This modern, well-equipped space has become a hub for learning, creativity, and connection, offering a wide range of resources including books, digital media, educational programs, and community events. The opening was a joyous occasion, bringing together local residents, families, and library enthusiasts to explore the new facility. The people counter for this day showed just under 900 visitors, which demonstrates the enthusiasm and the excitement of the day. We are now able to enjoy a facility that is ADA accessible, net zero with solar panels, community room with AV equipment for virtual meetings, study rooms with AV equipment, expanded seed cabinet, a comfortable teen area, children's play area. We expanded our collection to offer Wonder Books and Launch Pads, which are educational tablets. We have book lockers for after-hour pickup, public internet space, laptops to use in the library so that you can sit wherever you would like to use the internet, a beautiful courtyard, Gladstone Foundation book sale area. Since opening, the new Gladstone Library has already made a positive impact by fostering a love of reading and supporting lifelong learning. We look forward to the continued growth and success of this incredible community resource. Now I'm going to turn it over to Jason, who's going to give us an update on the final details of the Gladstone Library project.
All right, thanks, Mitzi. So we're very close to having all these little details finished up, but there are a few things that we're still working on. One of them being the public art installation. It's taken me a little bit longer to get that ready to go out on the street, but I'm hoping either later this month or early March. Actually, for both libraries, we might go at the same time, soliciting for public art for both of those areas or both of these libraries. Final installation of missing shelving. So, unfortunately, all the shelving didn't come out perfect the first time, so we've had to make some changes. Probably where you might notice it is in the children's area. There's the carts that move around. They don't have the tops and the end panels yet. They manufactured those the wrong size, so we've been waiting for a little while to get those. And then you'll just see some shelving tops missing in a couple areas, and then the foundation area still needs to be finished up. So as of now, we're hoping to get that stuff installed by early March. Right now we've got a delivery date of the last week of this month to get that, so I'm hoping that gets wrapped up also. And then the final piece is we're installing a donor wall in the courtyard, and I think, is that the... We can kind of go over what that'll look like. Not working anymore?
Tammy, can you
I'm working on it. Looks like we're froze here.
So this is, we'll go over this quick. These were, I don't know if we shared this last time, but for the public art, we had a subcommittee from the task force that helped kind of pick out the theme that they wanted to go with for this library. And these were the two themes that they came up with. So this will be, when we do put our RFQ out, this will be part of it to show what we are expecting for these new pieces. That go backwards. This just talks about our available funds. So right now, we have 80,000. Half of that is from the county's budget, and then the foundation is providing the other half. And it's actually just 2 of these sites. So Site 1 and Site 3, which Site 1 is the kind of landscaped area next to that entrance. Possibly looking at some type of sculpture, some 3-dimensional piece to go out there. And then Site 3 is, when you're looking at that, that's the middle picture. It's that long kind of blank space above the shelving. We already have this Site 2. That's what we're calling the story rings. Those are installed, and those are basically the metal rings that have some inspirational quotes within them. So, okay, donor wall. As part of the project, we're planning to install basically the infrastructure, the pieces for the donor wall, and then it would be on the foundation to actually take the individual placards, whatever you want to call them, that are in the kind of the shape of a leaf. For donors to the foundation. So we're still in the contracting process, so I think it might be a couple months before this is up and installed. But I'm hoping it doesn't take much longer than that. And then once we install them, it'll kind of be on the foundation to maintain and to add to it when they do have donations for that. And then this is kind of just a blow up. It's supposed to obviously try to represent these leaves that are kind of free hanging on that courtyard wall. The nice thing about this is you can, if the foundation want to expand it, there's room in that courtyard where you could just put another one of these installations right next to it if you happen to have more than, I think we planned for 50 donors. Up to 50 donors originally with this install, but you could expand it further if you wanted. Are there any questions about the Gladstone Library, or if you have questions about the other library, I'm more than happy to try to answer those questions also.
Questions from councilors? Thank you very much for this report and update. I think it's fortunate that the few very minor things that didn't get delivered, it didn't really affect the operation.
Yeah.
The books are all still out there; they just don't have a top over
Right,
them.
yeah.
So you're fully operational, which has been great for the community. So.
Yes.
If I just
Yes. Go ahead.
and just regarding the art walls, how often will there be new art displayed?
So what we talked about here, the public art, those will be commission pieces. So those would be more permanent. There are there's an area in the teens area, the children's area, and also in that community room. If you're there, you'll see these rails, metal rails towards the ceiling. That can be used to display temporary art or just to hang it from there. We are looking at seeing if initially we can work with Clackamas Arts Alliance to have a rotating exhibit. So we can do that, or obviously if there's people from the community that want to display things, that'd be something that they could look into with the library too. But the infrastructure is there to do it. Obviously, right now we don't have anything on the walls yet.
What was the composition of that stakeholder group that came up with these 2 art themes?
I guess what are you asking? How it was 4. So the task force, I think, was like 12 to around 12 people, and it was a group of 4 that we picked to make these choices. And we actually had representation from Clackamas Arts Alliance and some other people to help kind of guide, obviously, because we're not, well, I'm not for sure, and a lot of for the task force, it's an interest of theirs, but they're not necessarily experts, so we tried to bring people in to help kind of guide them on what to do.
Okay. And this is what everyone came up with?
Yeah.
These
Yeah.
were the recommendations?
Yeah.
What were some of the other options?
It's a great question. Off the top of my head, I don't remember. It's been a while since we last met with them. I would say they weren't much different than what we showed here today. I think nature was something that we looked at possibly to do, but they thought a lot stronger towards this than they did maybe with the nature theme.
Okay.
I know that was one of them. There probably was a couple others. I just can't remember off the top of my head because it's probably been like 4 or 5 months since we met.
Yeah. Go ahead. Thank you.
So these are the pieces, or this is the type of art you're looking for?
These are just ideas. This will be, we'll say this is kind of the theme that we would like whatever art we commission to kind of speak to that.
Okay.
But it's not, these are just examples. These will not be.
These are not the actual pieces. All right, thank
Not
you.
at all.
So for the public who's watching online, and maybe because the images were kind of small, just to know the 2 general themes, one is gather and grow.
Yeah.
And the other one was curiosity, exploration, and discovery.
Yes.
So they're themes that in a general sense really apply to libraries, what they're
Yeah.
for, what they do in the community, what they provide, and what they stimulate in the people who come and use the library. So
Yeah.
I think they're well-chosen themes. I'll be eager to see the art that results as from them.
Too.
So we're grateful to you for coming today, presenting to us. As I said during the grand opening, the part of the job of the task force at the very beginning was to identify some values that the library, in its design and when it finally came together, would encompass. And I think they did an excellent job of that. And including public art was one of the things that was very important from the outset. Yeah. So we're glad to know that we're at the stage where we're almost going to see that, and that there's an opportunity for the community to give back through the foundation and to have some recognition for that on the donor wall. So we're grateful to you. I know, Mitzi, it's a challenge to operate libraries and build libraries at the same time. You've been doing it for a long time. You continue to do it, and we're especially grateful for your leadership and guidance and, going above and beyond what normally would be expected of a library director. And Jason, your expertise has been invaluable in this as well, so we're grateful to you as well.
Thank you.
All right. So before we move on to the next item on our agenda, I would like to, as a courtesy, to allow Darcy from Clackamas Children, I gotta remember the name again.
Clackamas County Children's Commission.
Clackamas County Children's Commission. She's requested to come and make a brief presentation to us tonight. We have the a hard copy of the PowerPoint for that. And so if you could see if Darcy's in attendance and allow her to be a participant in the meeting. Okay.
Darcy, are you there?
I am here. Thank you.
So welcome, and go ahead. Normally we give people 3 minutes. You're from an organization. I think we can extend that a little bit. You understand that this is an item that we did not have planned for our agenda. We're not probably ready to give you much in the way of a response. But for you to present it to us in person will enable us to consider it in more detail when we can. Go ahead.
That's perfect. I've just requested to be able to share my screen. Looks like I got the request. One second. Let me pull it up here. So obviously, short time, so I'll run through this real quick. I would say I would be happy to join in person if I could get some time on the agenda to expand on these ideas. We were able to secure funds to expand our services in Gladstone. We currently are occupying 2 classrooms at GCCF, but the need is much greater than that. So we became aware of the Gladstone YMCA on Webster Road and were able to secure funds to purchase that property. We also have a small amount of funds, well, relatively small, to do the renovations. Just real quick, we're completely aware of the childcare desert that exists throughout Clackamas County and are really interested in affecting that. In particular, there is a great need in Gladstone for infant and toddler care, and that's not something we can provide at GCCF. So we're very excited about the opportunity to increase infant and toddler care in the Gladstone area. The wait list definitely support our vision. And if you don't know about Clackamas County Children's Commission, we refer to ourselves as Clacco Kids. We are not a part of the county. We are a private nonprofit, and we've been in existence for more than 50 years. So this is the Webster Road property. We believe we can have it operating by December of 2025. Just really quickly, this is the existing floor plan, kind of cut up different rooms. This is what it will look like after we are done. The light blue are infant and toddler spaces, and the darker blue are preschool spaces. Some of the things that were really important to us is restrooms in each of the classrooms. So we don't have to worry about children like going out in the hallway and kind of getting lost. It provides for really good supervision and safety for the little people. We'll expand the footprint of the kitchen. We're well known for our quality meals that we serve in the classrooms to the children. And then, of course, some staff spaces. Here is the footprint of the space and where we'll locate the preschool playground and the infant and toddler playground. And this is all in your packet. Here's a couple of shots of outdoor. We have experienced some vandalism on the building. I think I was on for a couple of weeks speed dial for the Gladstone Police Department. I think we've installed some cameras and cleaned up some areas that were being occupied. So I think we've alleviated that issue, and we're excited to be in the space because we know that once we're occupying, we won't have to worry about that. And then just a picture of the kitchen. So with every project, there's some risks. Right now, it's an uncertain timeline. We're in the middle of 2 other construction projects. So we're basing what we know on those projects. We're also learning a lot with the other 2 projects. So we believe that the Gladstone project will actually move much quicker than because we've kind of ironed out some things. The costs have already increased over what we initially thought. And I'll show you numbers here in a second. And then finalizing contracts. Although, again, because we're engaged in this in 2 other spaces, we feel like that will even go a little quicker. So our budget for the total project is $5.71 million. The purchase budget was 2.4, and then the renovations is 3.3. We have secured 4.16 from the Office of Head Start, our federal funder, which allowed us to purchase the property in June of 2024, and the rest we can put towards the renovations. However, it's not enough. So I believe Anessa Hartman has visited with you about this project. She and Senator Mark Meek are sponsoring our capital construction ask at the state, where we're asking for $1.5 million. And we feel really confident that we'll get that funded. I just last week was at the state legislature. I visited all 17 representatives and senators that represent Clackamas County. And of the 17, I secured, yes, I'll support that from 16 of them. So I feel pretty good about that. Both sides of the aisle, a lot of support. So Anessa really believes that a local investment would make the case even stronger for the capital construction request. She said they're asking what is the local investment. And so I'm asking if the city of Gladstone would be our local investor in the children and families that will occupy this space, and as a kind of a gesture that the city supports the project. And I'm probably going over on my time. I'm so sorry. I would also ask for letters of support. We know we'll have to go before the Capital Construction Committee. If you could let your state legislators know that you support the project. We haven't named the center. We obviously can't call it the Gladstone Center because that already exists. So we're going to be taking nominations probably next week, and I'll send the information. We'd love for you to think about what should this center be named. And then we'll have really want to engage the community in this process. So a voting system for naming the center. I'm also interested in getting into people's newsletters and visiting service groups and, of course, social media. And that is my attempt at staying under 3 minutes. I'm so sorry.
Thank you, Darcy. I remember from testifying before the legislature last year when you were trying to get this funding originally,
Yes.
that roofing and the bathroom construction are the major parts of the renovation. My suggestion, and the county assessor says this building's worth about $1.5 million, and you're talking about the renovations being $3.5 million.
Mm-hmm.
My suggestion is you find a plumber and a roofer who will do this at cost and name the building after them. But I know there are a lot of permitting factors and rules about the construction, the configuration that you have to abide by, and I'm certainly no expert on renovation costs, but I know it's a challenge for you. I'm glad that we're third in line so that you kind of can make all the mistakes and learn all the lessons on the earlier two buildings. Now we're just beginning our budget process for the city. We have not budgeted for this at all, and we cannot make any promise as to whether we would be able to at all. But we do appreciate knowing about this going into our community. The county gets funds for Metro for supportive housing services. Child care is a key part of particularly for working young mothers and single mothers to be able to make the cost of their rent and their housing. And to my mind, this is an example of a supportive housing project, similar to what we did with the Gladstone food pantry, that prevents people from being evicted by providing one of the basic needs that families have in a community. So we will try to be very creative in exploring what can be done on this, and we're glad to have this information. And sorry the timing is not good for us or you, but we're grateful for your coming. Are there questions or comments from counselors? All right. Thank you very much for your presentation tonight.
Could I just add that along the housing way of thinking, we also, every family that is enrolled with us, we do a family assessment of needs. Oftentimes, in fact, our number one need is housing. And part of the home visiting team's responsibility is connecting those families to housing and making sure that their housing is stable and secure. So I'll offer that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
All right. Next item on our agenda, speaking of budget, is to begin planning our calendar for the 2025-2027 biennial budget process. So Administrator Betts, can you present that to us?
I believe Kathy Brucker is on Zoom tonight to walk you through the timeline for the budget process.
Hi, thank you. Good evening, Council and Mayor. Yes, we are beginning our budget process for the biennium of 2025 to 2027. And so what we are requesting tonight is for you to approve the proposed budget calendar that is submitted to you there. This will span the fiscal years of 25-26 and 26-27, and with approval, will set the whole process in motion. The 4 dates that I would like to bring to your attention on the attached budget calendar is April 21st, 25, when we'll do our Budget 101. This is a presentation we've been making for the past several biennial budgets, covering the role of the Budget Committee. So hopefully you'll all be able to attend that. And those of you who have been through it before, you may find it a bit repetitive, but it hopefully will be informative for the new counselors and Budget Committee members. Then on May 19th at 5:30 p.m., we will have our first Budget Committee meeting, where you will appoint a budget officer, receive the message, review the proposed, receive any public comment, and approve the budget, or schedule a second meeting if necessary, if there are further questions or things that you want information on. Then on June 2nd, 2025, we will have that second meeting if necessary, and then followed up by June 24th, 2025, where the City Council will meet and conduct the budget hearing for both the city and the Urban Renewal Agency. So it's very succinct on this budget calendar. I wish it was quite as succinct in practice, but it is quite a involved process. And needless to say, there are very specific rules and regulations as far as Oregon local budget law that we have to comply with. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions from city councilors? Some of us have been through this before. Some of us have seen it from a distance. And you're right. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes to prepare us for these meetings. And we're grateful to you, Kathy, and for the rest of the staff who do that. And also notices that need to go out to the public. And so that's something that we don't see, but we rely on staff to be sure that all those T's are crossed and I's are dotted on all those rules and regs. So thank you very much. So is there a motion to adopt the proposed calendar for the 25, 26, 27 biennium budget?
So moved. Seconded.
All right, it's been moved by Councilor Garlington or Councilor Huckabee and seconded by Councilor Blaug, I believe. So if you would approve the budget, indicate as Tammy calls the roll.
Counselor Roberts.
Yes.
Counselor Labonte.
Yes.
Counselor Blaug.
Yes.
Counselor Mitchell.
Yes.
Counselor Huckabee.
Yes.
Counselor Garlington.
Yes.
Mayor Milch.
Yes, the budget calendar is approved. Put it on your own calendars and plan to attend.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Kathy. The next item is regarding the Gladstone City Council rules. Staff, will you present this one for us, please?
Thank you, Mayor. So for the remainder of the agenda, you're going to see a theme here of items that we covered at our City Council goal-setting session. So we just put them on here to hopefully be able to go through and get some direction on that. And one of them is in regards to the City Council rules. An odd number year, the council needs to decide whether they want to reaffirm the current City Council rules or go through a process of amending them. So they have been presented to you in the packet. I would like to say that it was brought up at the council goal-setting session whether or not there was a formal process for appointing someone to a vacant council position. That is why in the staff report you will see a section 31 and section 32 citing from the charter that talks about what the process is for appointing someone to the vacant office. That's the city charter. There is nothing in the city council rules. The city council, by a majority vote, must choose at a council meeting who they want to put into that position. So the council can have a discussion amongst themselves as to whether or not they are happy with the current rules, which again, I want to remind you that in 2022, 2023, the city attorney and the council at that time went through a pretty comprehensive update and review of the rules.
All right, this is something we do every 2 years. We as Jackie said, we did it a couple of years ago. We've lived with those rules for a while. Are there comments, questions, desires to revisit anything, concerns about changes, or are we willing to go with what we have for now?
I'm willing to stick with what we have now. I know there were some frustrations voiced at the goal-setting session, and I would say the more experience you get up on the dais appointing committee and board members, you will understand why it's beneficial that we have the purview to decide how to move forward.
Okay, so on that issue of vacancy appointment, that's helpful. Other comments, questions? All right.
I just want to jump in real quickly and
Yes.
say that I tend to agree with Councilor Huckabee on that. I think it works out well when we have all the options in our pocket and we can kind of proceed however we see fit best for whatever the circumstances is, because they're always different. So
I think that was what our experience the last couple of years was. Every time it seemed a little different situation and called for different things. And I apologize to people who were on the other end of that process who saw an inconsistency there. And that's something we just have to work on ourselves. Go ahead.
If I may, my
Councilor
question would be,
Labonte.
what would be some of the differences in that from one vacancy to another on the council?
Years ago, we had a committee appointed who interviewed all the applicants and made some recommendations, and then the council voted not to go with the recommendations of that committee. That was problematic. Sometimes we've had people just fill out a form, and we went off the forms. Sometimes we've interviewed people in the meeting prior to making a decision. We've just followed some different procedures. And so if you come expecting to be interviewed and you're not interviewed, that seems inconsistent. Or if you think that just filling out a form that everybody else fills out isn't a sufficient way of presenting your qualifications for the job, that doesn't seem right either sometimes. So it's just one of those things where, as it's been said, we kind of have that option to feel it out and decide as a council what the appropriate way is to do it in the situation. I'm hoping we don't have any more vacancies for 2 more years. But I do appreciate the comments and the feedback that we got during the planning, our goal-setting session. Councilor Garlington?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say that I heard what Councilor Mitchell was saying, and I heard what Councilor Labonte was saying, and the frustration that they felt at the time that we were going through these interviews and or discussions about what was going on. I understand why they want a clear and concise procedure going forward. It's hard when you have an expectation that this is the way it happened last time, and you believe that this is the way that it will happen again. And when it doesn't, it just seems a little bit willy-nilly at times. I felt what they were saying, I heard what you were saying, and I understand that. And what I'd like to say is that I think that right now, one of the best things we could do is ask for the grace of, let's hope no one has to leave our council in the near future, with the promise on my end that if that should happen, that we would have a far better, clear, and concise way moving forward so that there is no frustration in public. Is that something that is acceptable?
Yeah, I think that's what I heard Councilor Huckabee saying, is that, we would make that decision when it comes, but to make it clear to the public beforehand, I think, to alleviate any misunderstandings or expectations that aren't met.
And the people that are putting their name forward.
Yes, yeah, that's who I mean, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the applicants. Okay, very good. So we're not going to put anything in the rules. The charter guides the timing and when it's necessary to do the appointment and to have an election, and that will stay the same. That's city action already taken by the voters. So other than that issue, anything else in the rules that we want to revisit, or are we good with what we have? Hearing no specific suggestions for changes, I think we will just then consider this resolution to continue to apply as our council rules, and we will not take any action tonight.
Is that consistent, Chad? Do we need to make a motion to continue with these, or can we leave it as is?
So, yeah, I would suggest that you actually make a motion to adopt the rules as they currently exist.
All right, I'll accept a motion for that.
In that case, I would make a motion that we continue using our existing council rules moving forward as outlined by our staff report.
Second.
All right, it's been moved by Councilor Roberts and seconded by Councilor Huckabee to continue to use the city council rules as currently in our code.
Counselor Labonte,
Yes.
Counselor Roberts,
Yes.
Counselor Garlington,
Yes.
Counselor Huckabee,
Yes.
Counselor Mitchell,
Yes.
Counselor Blaug,
Yes.
Mayor Milch.
Yes. The motion passes. Thank you for clarifying the affirmative decision to do that. Okay, we move on next to an item that has come to us from Clackamas County. Again, staff, you'll guide us through this one?
Thank you, Mayor. You and I had a conversation on Monday that leads me to believe that there's not going to be any action required from the council tonight. And so if you want to explain your piece of it from C4, then I can explain my piece of it from the city managers group.
Okay. About 5 years ago, Clackamas County wanted to develop a task force to examine a number of issues related to libraries in our county. Some funding issues, some structural issues, some governance issues. And that task force had one meeting, and then COVID happened, and they never met again. And some of those same issues are still out there. The county wants to continue to work on them, but with a little more tightly structured task force. And their suggestions for how that task force would be structured are maybe not in this report. I'm looking for, oh, yes, on page 12-7. So rather than I would say there were close to 50 people because every city had 2 people there. We're looking now at maybe 10 voting and 1 ex officio, including 2 city managers, 2 library directors, 2 members of the public, 2 mayors, 1 urban mayor, and 1 suburban or rural mayor, and the library district director. So the Board of County Commissioners will be the ones to appoint this group. C4 was asked to recommend 4 nominees for the mayor's positions. I was nominated along with Mayor Denise McGriff of Oregon City as 2 nominees for the urban mayor representatives. And the mayor of Sandy and the mayor of Canby, I believe, were nominated as the rural representatives. And the county commissioners will pick 1 of each. City managers got together and they nominated some from among their group as possible consideration for the board to consider. And that's the process that's gone on. So although we thought maybe each city would be nominating or recommending people, that's not the way it's working. And so if it was a little confusing in your packet, I just want you to understand that's not the process that is ultimately going down on this. So we will wait and see. what the Board of Commissioners does. But I suggest that you read through this, familiarize yourself with some of the issues, because if I happen to be one of the people on this, or even if I don't, and we hear about it through C4, we'll be asked probably to give some feedback on some of these things, and it would be helpful if we keep informing ourselves of the various issues, governance, services, and funding that are before this task force for action by the county. You probably know the library in its current form was adopted because of by a voting initiative of the citizens back in 2008. They set a tax rate for all county properties to help support it. Some question about whether that funding is sufficient, so this may involve proposal for an increase in taxes and other funding mechanisms. But we will, the group that gets appointed will look at all of those issues. Are there questions from councilors? Administrator Betts, do you think I captured most of it? Is there anything else that you think it's important to note? Because you've had discussions with other city administrators on this issue.
Yeah, and I'm not sure the two city managers that were nominated know they were nominated yet, so I don't want to reveal their names. But I did not want to participate because of my workload, but I believe what the communication breakdown is that you're correct. Gladstone is not required to select somebody. There is a process in place of how those representatives will be selected.
Okay, so let's just hold on to this. Yes, go ahead.
Did you happen to hear the date that they will finalize the group by chance?
No, I have not.
Okay, that's all.
They did ask us at the C4 meeting this past week to do the nomination, so it may be before the next C4, so it may be sometime this month. You could look at the BCC agendas and see if they have it on there. Okay. All right.
Can I call for a 5-minute recess, Mayor?
Yes, you may.
Thank you.
All right, we will recess for about 5 minutes, come back at 7:38. All right, we are reconvened. It's a little after 7:37. The next item on our agenda is the completion of the process of doing appointments for council liaison. On page 13-2, there is a chart showing initial appointments made at our last meeting with some highlighted that were still a little bit tentative. In the meantime, since that last meeting, I remembered that several years ago I served on a committee that was working on revising council rules, the thing we just worked on back in 2016. And one of the things that we did back then was look at rules and some of the documents used by other cities. And I think that was the source of where I found the document that you were given tonight called Rules and Duties for Council Liaison. And it describes some of your responsibilities and clarifies some of what you are supposed to do and some of what you're not supposed to do for liaisons to city boards and agencies. That would include the Community Center Board, Parks and Recreation, Traffic Safety, Planning Commission, and I think those are, well, I think the Joint Fire Services Oversight Committee is sort of a city committee. Some of these committees we didn't have liaisons to, and the roles are different. I was in a conversation with a counselor last week who reminded me that some of these groups that are listed on this sheet where city councilors serve, they are there as members of that group. So I am a member of C4. I'm a voting member. I participate fully in decisions that are made there. And however, people that serve on some of these other groups follow the rules. The local groups follow the rules that are on this list. So just to remind you, your job is to attend the meetings of the Board or Commission on a regular basis, to represent the majority city council position if known, to participate in a manner that will not intimidate or inhibit the meetings and operations of the Board or Commission. make comments in a positive manner so as to promote positive interaction between council and the board or commission. And be prepared to give the council regular and timely reports at every regular city council meeting. Take the lead on discussion items before the council which pertain to the assigned board or commission. So it's those things, since we have some new commissioners or new counselors, and also counselors who may be in new roles as a liaison. I just wanted to remind you of that. So you're not there as a voting member. You're there to sort of facilitate communication between the city and the committee. And some of these other committees where we have representation, it is here because it's helpful to have them all listed in one place. Councillor Huckabee and Councillor Blaug serve as members for the Leaders for Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Council, but that council is appointed by the Board of County Commissioners of Clackamas County. And I am going to make the appointment tonight. I gave this some thought, and as long as we can abide by these rules and understand this process and avoid conflicts of interest, Councillor Mitchell, I would like you to be the representative to the Clackamas County Library Board. I know that you were being considered for a position in the library, in the Gladstone Library. I don't know if that's been determined yet. If you find that you do become a staff member there, we'll have to look very carefully at, how you can separate those issues. And Councillor Garlington, you have served in that capacity in the past. I want to change things up here. I appreciate your service there and hope that you might willing to be an alternate if need be. But I know that one of the things that's not on this list is the work that you're currently doing now as the chair of the Women's Caucus for the League of Oregon Cities that will, as I understand it, involve your attending a number of those meetings and working heavily there. And also you're serving on the Joint Fire Services Oversight Committee, and I appreciate your service in both those ways. Councillor Blaug, I'm going to affirm your appointment to the Parks and Recreation Board. And I had the pleasure of attending the Traffic and Safety Commission a couple of weeks ago for the first time and introduced Councillor Labonte as the liaison to that group. His experience of having led it before and some appointments of new people on there, and also the continuation of the sort of secondary staff involvement of Yvonne O'Neill, or McNeil, yes, our code enforcement officer who also formerly served in that group. We have a very solid group of very well-qualified and very technically competent people on that traffic safety board, and so I look forward to Councillor Labonte serving there as the liaison. Councillor Roberts, you are serving with North Clackamas County Water and are attending other meetings as well. That's one of those kinds of groups where you also serve as a voting member of that, and I think you even chaired it right off the bat when you took over. So the roles and responsibilities, and whether you have a voting right and whether you don't, and how that relates back to the City Council, they're not all the same for all these groups. But I appreciate dividing up these responsibilities in such a way that gives everybody an opportunity to make a good contribution to the work of the city. I did not appoint anyone to be a reserve liaison to Parks and Recreation. Is there someone on the board who would like to do that?
I would put my name in for that.
Okay. All right. We will put Councilor Labonte as the reserve for Parks and Recreation. Councilor Labonte, you are appointed Traffic Safety. Is there someone who would like to be a reserve liaison to that group?
I'd be interested. I've been on that before.
Okay. All right. I will put your name there. So you two sub for each other if need be. Councilor Labonte, you had a comment.
Yeah, if I just may mention, I'm looking here and I see that there's 12 positions, and I'm trying to figure the balance. And as a primary liaison, respectfully, I see that Mayor, you're on 3 of these. I'm wondering where Councilor Mitchell falls in this, and the balance of, So it seems as if more than 2 primary liaison positions kind of takes away from someone else's opportunity. I don't know if there's any feelings with the.
Well, the regional committees are generally represented by the mayor. The mayors serve on C4, so that one is for the mayor.
Sure.
And the school district board is the one that I sort of established having a liaison to that when I was on city council before, and it's the local one that I do the most. Planning Commission, I have experience there. I rarely attend the meetings in person because of the issues of not wanting to hear land use application evidence before it comes possibly to the council on appeal. So are you suggesting that we appoint someone else to be one of those?
And again, respectfully, I think that would be that in my view, that kind of balances it out in a good way. I'm interested to see what other people might think on that.
Councilor Roberts, did you have you?
Are you comfortable if I discuss our personal phone conversation?
Sure, that's fine.
Okay. With that, then, I'll just share with the council. I had a similar thought as Councilor Labonte and suggested that perhaps, and I don't want to throw Councilor Mitchell on the spot, but given your involvement with the libraries, I kind of thought it would be better if you were willing to serve as the primary liaison on the school board, and the mayor was willing to move into a reserve position on that, so that you could serve there, given Councilor Garlington's previous commitment to the library board. And then with that in mind, if you or Councilor Garlington had a different idea of how that could shuffle out, they're not necessarily my chess pieces to be moving, but I had the same thought that it was a little imbalanced, and I wanted to make sure that going in tonight looking at this, that you had a primary appointment, but now with the way the mayor's discussed it, also that Councilor Garlington has primary appointments. So, again, not my chess pieces and putting different people in the spot, but those were my personal thoughts on that.
Councilor Huckabee?
I feel that the last time we discussed this, every counselor made it pretty clear what appointment they wanted. Obviously, we have to move some chess pieces, but the ones that the mayor are on, I will say as an individual, those are the ones I want the mayor on. We need him in these capacities because I know he works very well with Superintendent Jeremiah Patterson. So, I mean, I think they're fine as they are.
To be clear, I don't want to stir up a big thing over this. I just want to throw out my personal thoughts.
All right. Well, this is one of the things where, pursuant to the rules, the mayor does the appointments. And I appreciate Councilor Huckabee's comment. The school district is a very complicated entity. There are a number of issues going on there, and I do have a good working relationship with the superintendent, who meets regularly with our city administrator, too. There are overlapping concerns about the needs of children, about childcare, about housing, about facilities, and that's why we try to meet regularly with them and stay in touch. I rarely speak when I'm there. I sit and attend the meetings, and in fact, I only go in person because their meetings online, the audio quality, frankly, is not very good. Sorry. Sorry, one of the board members is here, Nicole Quackenbush, and I apologize for that, but it's fun to be in the back and watch the interaction. Well, I think I'm going to stick with what I started. Let me fill in some blanks. I will appoint Councilor Labonte as the reserve liaison to the Parks and Recreation Board, and Councilor Blaug as the reserve liaison to Traffic Safety. Councilor Mitchell as the primary liaison to the Clackamas County Library Board. Councilor Garlington, would you be willing to be a reserve for that? Okay, thank you. And I don't think we have reserves needed on the other groups. If I didn't make it clear, Councilor Roberts and Councilor Garlington both are Joint Fire Services Oversight Committee. That will be another very important one this year. In terms of roles I think, Councilor Garlington, you are the most experienced in terms of time of service of all of us on the council, which is why it's very important that you represent us in the League of Cities in the capacity you've chosen to do. I think you bring an awareness there, and your opportunity to meet with leaders from other cities, particularly on issues of interest to women, I think will be very important for this city. So I am grateful that your experience and your knowledge of city work will benefit the others on that caucus as you work together, and I think we'll come back. We have gotten a lot more involved as a council this year. A couple of months ago, for the first time, we weighed in on legislative priorities of the League of Cities, and we were very fortunate to discover that what we thought was a priority matched the priorities of the cities across the state. So having that connection, I don't get to those meetings. I watch the legislative updates, but you getting there personally, I think, will represent us well. So I'm grateful for that representation. All right. So that concludes that item. Item number 14, staff, will you give us a little bit of a presentation regarding the old library property?
I'd be happy to, Mayor. This topic also came up at our goal-setting session because we know now with the new library that is open, it's time for us to think about what are we going to do with the old library property. Having the city attorney attend our goal-setting session is so valuable because he sometimes tells me to slow down, and he reminded us at this goal-setting session that there is a charter provision because this property is zoned C2 Community Commercial District that has the word park in it as an allowed use. And so in our research during the goal-setting and afterwards, we realized that in order for the city council to be able to sell or lease that property, we have to refer it to the voters. We have not decided if we're going to sell or lease that property, and the only reason it is on the agenda tonight is because if you want to refer it to the May ballot, we have a deadline of February 28th, which means that you would have to call a special meeting to approve a resolution to declare it surplus and then a resolution to refer it to the May ballot. So I wanted to make sure that you understood. It could be confusing to some people in the community. They may think that we're trying to sell it or lease it. And in my conversations with City Attorney Jacobs, who can chime in on this, there is the ability for the city to put a condition on that we will not sell or lease it without a community town hall or a public hearing to discuss that. This is really just another tool in our toolbox to be able to sell or lease the property should we get an offer that the city council wants to consider. Staff still plans on going through a process of engaging the community on what they would like to see at this property. I think recently there was an article in the Milwaukee Review that the Clackamas County is trying to decide what to do with the old courthouse, and they are putting out a referral of interest to find out. Oregon City has chimed in and said they'd like it to be a park. I see Gladstone doing a similar process. We're also going through and trying to figure out the structural integrity of the building. I can tell you that the preliminary results that we've got back from the environmental is, yes, there's some asbestos, yes, there's some lead. Should people be in there? No. But does it meet the threshold where you have to condemn the building? Probably not. So what that tells us is that if somebody wants to buy it or renovate it, they could do that. I will also share that CIS, who's our insurance provider, has not insured that building because of the roof collapse and top, it's sagging, and that the structural integrity is not there for them to insure the building, but there's insurance on the property. So we got a lot of work to do still internally. What we want to walk you through is whether or not the timing is right to put this on the May ballot, or if you would like to hold off and perhaps do it in November, or perhaps even longer than that. And City Attorney Jacobs, I will let you add anything you would like to that.
Sure. Thank you, Jackie, and Mayor Council Chad Jacobs from the City Attorney's Office. The only thing I would add to that, and I think this is in Jackie's staff report as well, is that one of the considerations for you all to think about is in the development world, sometimes things move rather quickly. And it's not that you can't have these discussions with the community, even on specific proposals, but to have to wait for an election before you can necessarily take a final step could really kill some deals. So one of the things that you want to think about is if you want to just sort of ask the voters for approval now to have that flexibility. And as Jackie mentioned, we can have language in the approval process that you present to the voters that says that you won't actually take action to sell or lease until you have a community town hall or something like that. So we could actually put that in the referral measure that goes to the ballot to show the voters that, hey, we're doing this to get this sort of blanket approval early on, but we promise that we won't do anything and this approval doesn't count unless we hold that town hall meeting. These are all obviously policy calls for you to make. If you want to take it slow and you want to wait for a specific proposal to present to the voters, that's absolutely fine as well. There's nothing wrong with that. I just want to let you know that, again, in the development community, that may actually, turn some people off and not allow you to pursue some projects that you might be interested in pursuing.
Okay, Councilor Labonte, you had a question or a comment?
So if we bring it to a vote, and if the community says no, then what happens?
Then you have to either utilize it as a park consistent with the charter, or you would have to wait for a specific proposal or some other sort of proposal that you could present to the voters that they would approve. Just because they say no once doesn't mean you can't go back and ask for permission again.
I see.
Chad, let me get some clarification. You said utilize it as a park. The reason a park is a potential usage that it has, and that's the reason we have to put it to a vote. But we could utilize it as something else that's consistent with the C2 zoning that it's currently in. Is that correct? If the voters disapproved of a sale or lease.
Correct. Yeah, you just can't. What the charter requires is that you have to have voter approval before you sell or lease it. So if the city wants to use it for some other purpose, such as a recreation center or something, invest in the building or building a new. Well, if you're building a new building, that would require a separate charter approval process. For the purposes of this specific charter provision, it is limited to sale or lease. So yes, anything else consistent with that zone, as long as the city's using it, that would be permissible as well.
Part of my concern is it looks like we're trying to circumvent the charter thing by getting a vote well in advance, and people say, well, how long does this permission good for? Could we also could the if we were to decide to put it to a vote, could we also have sort of an expiration date on that approval along with some public involvement?
Yes, absolutely. Whatever you feel that you want to propose to the voters that makes you all comfortable and makes the voters comfortable, any of those restrictions would be fine.
Okay. So we're not going to discuss possible uses or what it shouldn't be or any proposed buyers because that's way ahead. But I think this sounds like both from a legal standpoint and a strategic standpoint, something that we need to consider tonight. So comments, questions, a motion?
If I may ask,
Yes.
Would there be any advantages to not putting it on the ballot right away? What benefits might that be?
Yeah, I mean, I think the benefit is really, and you all know this better than I do, is the level of community trust that you have within the public, and whether and to what extent they feel that going out with a specific proposal, so they know what they're voting on, is more important to them versus providing this sort of blanket approval for the council. And I defer to you all on that. You know your community much better than I do.
So the public might want to rather say, we are approving it because we know that after it's sold, it's going to become X, and we approve of X, rather than we approve it so that it might become whatever we'll find out later. Councilor Garlington, you had your light on.
I do. In part of this sounds like we're putting the cart before the horse, so to speak, in my opinion, in that if we don't have a very clear path on how we're going to speak to the people in our neighborhoods quickly, the rumor mill could run us all out of town even quicker. I personally reached out to 2 different groups and said, hey, we're talking about this tonight. If you want to chime in, now is the time to maybe come and say, we have different ideas. We'd like to do something different. As you know, council only meets once a month in order to do this, so you're losing time. Clearly, they are not here. I know I had asked our administrator to reach out to the neighborhood surrounding the library, which I have every ounce of credit that she did that. At the same time, I feel like, being that it's not one of those big election years, we will probably only have May unless we paid for a special election down the road, which in my opinion sounds really expensive. And didn't we just pay for something to the election that we didn't really want to pay? Yeah, the recount.
Just to be clear, we will have to pay to put this on the May ballot as well.
But would it be as much as a special election November?
It really depends. It's a percentage through the state statute on how we are charged for that.
Okay. I guess my feeling is if we decide to put it on the ballot, we have to move so fast at talking to this community that we just absolutely can't drop the ball on this one. I remember when I went out and I was campaigning for my first election, and people would say to me, now, are you getting that library built up at the nature park? Okay, well, that's long past. No, we're not doing that. So I don't want any of those seeds to even have a chance to be planted. And again, to be real concise to our community of what we're doing. And yes, I think not a laundry list, but maybe 4 or 5 bullet points as to our promise to our community in that election piece would be really important. I just feel like that.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Follow up to that. I think it was last year, we had a bond go out and we sent postcards to the community about what it is and what it wasn't, right? If that's something we could do before the May election, I think that would be fabulous. I think that'd be great. I know that's also financial.
Historically, the city did sell surplus property back when we sold the Rainey Collector site. I think it was 2018. It was a no-brainer. This, in some people's mind, is a no-brainer as well because it's not a financial impact to them. They understand that they're just giving the city the permission to move forward. We did not have to do any public outreach for the Rainey Collector site. We just had the explanatory statement in the ballot, which would be prepared by the city attorney's office, and away we went. So it really depends. But again, I want to reiterate that the only reason it's on here is because of the deadline for May ballot. If all of you want to slow down, we can do it at the November ballot. Realize that we also have a Clackamas Fire measure with the city of Gladstone that will be on the November ballot, so we don't want to appear that we're competing with anything there. But we could take a step back, and we could do it in November, and we could go through the process of at least talking to the community to figure out if you want to sell it or lease it, and if that's the decision the council makes, then we could refer it to the next election as well.
I'm fine moving forward with May. I just want some form of communication and very intentional. I'm not familiar with that other property you just spoke of, but this has been Gladstone's library. This has been, a home to a lot of our people, and that's why I think there's going to be a much larger emotional response to it. So I'm pro-May, but with intentional communication.
Can I just add one little thing?
Sure.
The other thing that the lady that came and spoke earlier about the Webster property for the child care, and she was talking about how it got broken into and things like that. Well, I just really don't want to see that with that building either. I don't want it to start looking any worse than maybe it could after a terrible winter.
You don't like mushrooms?
I'm content to see this move forward to the May ballot. I think all it's doing for us is opening up options. We're not committing to anything. There's no monetary impact. So to me, that makes sense. I would be very disinterested in seeing this in November. We've got some big stuff going on there, and I don't want it to be seen as any sort of competition on the ballot. I think it should be very intentional that we're prioritizing only fire in November. So my primary interest is we move it forward to this May, and if we choose not to go to that, then I would move it out as far as next May. But I'm content to see it move forward now.
I think Councilor Garlington makes a good point that the rumor mill and people's misunderstanding and misinformation can be an enemy on this. Perhaps if we work on it more quickly, we have control over that for a shorter period of time leading up to an earlier election. And I think I'm glad some of you have brought up the timing of election. Metro was considering a change in the tax rate to the Metro housing tax. They were going to do it in May. Now they've decided to postpone it to November. And a lot of it has to do with competition of what things are on the ballot at the same time, how much you can ask voters for. And now, we're not going to be asking for a tax increase with this or anything of that kind. It's not that, they're going to choose where will their money go. But I trust the city's communications network to put things out in the newsletter and direct mail and other means of informing the public that this is just giving us permission to take a necessary step when and if a decision is made, and the promise that we will involve the public as best we can in that decision for the very reasons that Councilor Huckabee talked about, that this is a much more important piece of property to the community than the Ranny Collector site was to anyone. It's across the river. So go ahead, Councilor Labonte.
So let's say we go through with it, and is it when we have a buyer, let's say, is that an administrative decision, or does that go to council? How does that work after?
The selling or purchasing of property has to come before the city council. You can have an executive session to negotiate real estate transactions. However, you have to come out into a public meeting to actually purchase or sell a piece of property, and the city attorney would walk us through that process.
And just for clarification, we would not just sell to somebody who says, I want to buy that property. We would sell to somebody who says, I have a plan for the development of that property, and that's why I want to buy it. So we would be not just choosing a buyer, but we would be choosing a plan for the use of the property.
That's correct. It's got to fit what the downtown revitalization and the city council's vision is for that piece of property. So just because somebody comes with $1 million and wants to buy it doesn't mean you have to accept that money and buy it.
Very good.
Although I would be open to entertaining that $1 million. So
All right. Yes, Councilor Roberts.
I just want to quickly acknowledge, I don't want to disregard, given as we have a school board member here, that they'll also be going out asking for, in the May election, they'll be going out. But I see this as less of a competition to what the school is asking for than what the city is asking for. So I don't want the board to think that that's not something that I've thought about, but I think it's less of a competition.
And actually, and that might be something that actually, I think I've read things that say that when a school district is investing in improving its buildings in the heart of a community, it makes people, residents nearby, feel that their property is more valuable. And if the people know that the city is also looking to reinvest in this property and make something new of it, I think it's a positive thing for the community for that to happen.
I agree.
We're not letting something fall apart, but we're making sure that it moves forward in a positive direction. So I think those two things would be complementary issues in the May ballot. But would someone like to make a motion then for staff action on this item?
I have one more question.
Yes.
I want clarity here. As a council, we can choose, if we sold down the line, we can choose who we sell to based on what they plan to do with that property. Is that legal?
Jackie, do you want me to take that?
she said legal, so technically yes.
Yeah, so there's a process in real estate that you can utilize called a disposition and development agreement, also known as a DDA. And through that process, as the owner of the property, you can enter into a deal with the developer, which basically says, we agree to sell you this property. That's the disposition part. In exchange, you agree to develop the property in this manner. And that's the development part of the agreement. And so that's very common with public agencies, especially urban renewal agencies who purchase property and then they sell it. And sometimes you sell it at a discounted rate in exchange for the specific development you want. So sometimes a city may say, we really want a grocery store in this area because it's a food desert. And so they sort of market it, the property, to grocery stores and sell it at a discount to someone who's willing to develop for a grocery store. Those are the kinds of discussions that you all can have to say, what is it that we as a community want this property to be utilized for? And then we would market it that way for a developer who would want to come in and develop the property in whatever manner that you guys choose.
Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah. Before you consider a motion, first, I don't know that you need a motion. We just need some staff direction, but you're certainly free to make a motion. But it would be really helpful if you do want to move forward for the May ballot to give us a little more direction on if there's any of those sorts of parameters that you want within the measure. So when we bring it back to you, that's already in there. So for example, do you want to have the requirement for a town hall meeting? Do you want to have an expiration date? Is there anything else that you all would like us to put in that in the measure for you when we bring it back at the end of the month for your consideration?
I think certainly Administrator Betts has made a strong case for public engagement, either through a town hall or other options. Councilor Blaug, you had a comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that we would have budget and staff time to do a mailer, because I do think that being very explicit and with why we are going to the voters in a multimodal way would be important for this.
And remember that we cannot use staff time to urge the voters to vote in a certain way, but we can use staff time to present to the voters the options and why we are asking for a vote. So it's just indicating that it's a requirement that we get the approval before we can sell it, and then it's up to them how they vote on it.
Can I ask, would that include possibly, rather than a mailer that we are using separate postage for, to put something in, let's say, the water bills? Is that? I mean, I too would like to be specific about what we're looking for, so I don't want to speak that without saying head nods. What do you guys think?
I don't think that covers the amount of communication or intentional communication I'm thinking of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Heard.
Yeah, I'm never sure if we know whether water bills go to landlords or tenants all the time, so we wanted to get it to voters. and we can more specifically focus on that. Did you have other input or comment on this?
I just wanted to answer Councillor Blaug's question, and yes, if this is a council goal, I will dedicate staff time and resources to make sure that we have intentional communication with the public.
And I would like that town hall. Even if we're the only ones that show up, we showed up.
And do you want to give an expiration of 5 years?
No, I'm not interested in expiration because that we have to go out to the ballot for this and get voter approval. Hopefully we get it, and assuming we do, I don't want there to be any condition. I don't want us to shoot ourselves in the foot somehow and that lapses. So to acknowledge Chad's questions, yes, town hall provision, however that shapes out, and no time limit.
I wonder, could we get into a situation where maybe, there's a buyer and nothing happens for whatever reason, and then it's still the old library sitting there and no development's done? Would that be a disadvantage to an expiration date?
Or is that covered in the DDA?
Check.
I'm sorry, I don't quite understand the question.
Well, so I guess what I'm saying is, let's say someone does buy it without an expiration date. Is the buyer, whatever happens to the buyer, I'm not sure, but any scenario, and nothing gets built there. With an expiration date, that would give us some lever to pull. Otherwise, how would that play out?
Yeah, so generally within the DDA, you would have requirements that they do work by a certain time and develop the property. And if they fail to develop the property in a manner consistent with the DDA, then usually there's some sort of penalties, whether that's monetary penalties, or oftentimes there's even a clawback provision where the city can, have a reversion and take ownership of the property back.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, and the expiration date that I was referring to was an expiration date for the sale of the property, not for the development. But Chad has made it clear that, forcing the development to happen can be part of that other process. Okay, so I think we've given you guidance. We really can't make a decision on this until another meeting, but because you have a February 28th deadline, we've said we need to do that at a February 25th meeting. And could we do that at a virtual meeting?
We could do a Zoom meeting at the time of your choosing.
I don't believe we had a work session scheduled for that date.
That's correct.
Okay. So if that was because people had conflicts, maybe a Zoom meeting might make it easier to get everybody involved. But, let's go ahead and schedule it. Zoom is always a possibility for anybody that can't come. We can do it in person. But let's make sure that we also give everyone who might have a conflict, because this is kind of on short notice, the opportunity to participate.
5:30 or 6:30? Everybody okay with 5:30?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Very good. Thank you for that discussion. Chad, thank you for your input on this. It's very helpful. Not very many cities have a provision like this, so I'm glad that you're on top of ours and know the ins and outs of it and can advise us. So, all right, back in, I think it was around August, yes, we discussed the implementation of a proclamation process. There were people interested in having the city maybe on occasion make a proclamation about something, or the mayor of the city make a proclamation about something. And at our council goal setting, we decided we should bring this up again tonight and give new councilors an opportunity to weigh in on this process. So I will turn to councilors and ask for people to make a case one way or the other. I shared some examples of proclamations that I had received with you in advance, so you could see the kind of things that I sometimes hear that sometimes come to me on my email. And I'll just open this up for general discussion.
I did read the two emails that you sent us, although I did notice that neither one of them were within the city of Gladstone type.
They weren't sent from residents.
Yes.
Yes.
They weren't people within our 97027, so to speak. I'm not in favor of proclamations, not that I don't care about people, not that I don't care about the work that people do, because that is completely the opposite. What I'm not in favor of is diverting staff hours to comb through and or have to make the decisions of who does and who doesn't receive a proclamation. In my opinion, it's opening up a can that I'm not sure that we can close again, and or we can be concise about what's. I don't like to pick and choose, and it sounds like a pick and choose to me. So I'm going to have to say no on that for
All right.
myself.
Councilor Huckabee.
I'll go next. Thank you. It wouldn't take staff time to pick and choose who's going to get it, because we would create a guideline. If this proclamation qualifies here, qualifies here, qualifies here, then it's a yes. And we've already made that designation, so it's not up to them, and it's honestly not even up to the mayor, because it fits the qualification. We can also add in that guidance that the proclamation has to be written. We're not writing it for them. And that's pretty standard for cities that do proclamations, is they're presented with the verbiage up front.
I have noticed, at least in some cases, that when people ask to have a proclamation done, they don't always provide the language, but they do offer to help provide the language or to help and to give permission to modify language if it isn't. So that provides a little more flexibility than just saying take it or leave it, which as a mayor who might be in the position of helping to choose whether or not we do one, I would appreciate that flexibility from people who propose one.
That makes sense. I just
Yeah.
I want to make the point that we're not writing these. Staff is not writing these. If we need to ask for a little correction from the requestor, absolutely. But yeah.
Councilor Labonte.
It's curious from the staff perspective on time, office time for staff time for these types of requests. What does that actually look like?
Well, I think because we have not spent a lot of time looking at what other cities do, but just high level, what I have looked at is that typically a person that is, or an organization that is requesting the proclamation already has that information submitted. It could be a requirement that they do it. However, you also want to reserve the right for your city attorney to review it to make sure there's nothing in there that we don't need to be concerned about. It would just become part of our routine of putting a council packet together. So if staff is not creating a proclamation, there's not a lot of staff time that would be involved with that.
Let me ask you a hypothetical. If I was requested to do a proclamation about something that I felt was a non-controversial topic of interest to the city, would it have to be done at a council meeting, or could I submit it as a newsletter article and have it go out to the community in that way? Do you think it would have the same value, those of you who are in favor of having this?
No, I don't think it adds the same value. I would say double up. Double down.
Double down. You'd like to see it both places. Yeah, done it in a meeting and printed in the newsletter.
I will
If
also
somebody
share.
chose to do the newsletter. Sorry.
I apologize. I will also share that some cities don't read them at their meetings. It's in their guidelines that it says that they may not be able to read them and they'll just be in the packet. So again, if this is something that the council, a majority of you decide you want to do, the city attorney and I would spend some time looking at some guidelines and asking you some questions so that we could create a process that may be amenable to all of you. I understand this is a divided council on this item. My job is to try to accommodate all of your interests in that. So the first decision, though, is to decide if you want to move forward with this process.
As I recall from our goal-setting session, the three counselors seated to my left felt it was not important to have this. The three counselors seated to my right felt it was important to have this. I don't want to have a policy that says we will never do proclamations. I'd like to keep it available to the public. But I think if it is available, there ought to be a procedure for doing it. So I would like, my own feeling is staff can review the process that other cities have done and provide some guidelines so that we have that checklist, that predictability of form, that that we're not going to be surprising if it's something that we don't agree with. And then I think the other decision that the council will have to make is whether these are mayoral proclamations or somehow a statement by the city on an issue on behalf of the entire city council. And the other concern that I have along those lines is part of our discussion earlier, and Chad, you weighed in on this, was whether city council meetings become an open forum for anyone in the community who has a topic that they want to talk about or declare something about. And I don't want us to be in the position where if we as a city council take an open position on something, that we are then inviting the community to come in and say, well, if you said yes to this, you need to say this to mine too, and having competing interests. So I hear the objections of the folks on my left and the affirmations of the folks on my right with equal voices, and I'm trying to be equally concerned about the pros and cons of both.
Okay, I think she had hers on first.
Yeah. Obviously, I'm in favor of this for a couple of reasons. We have several cities around us that already do this. I think we could model that, our process on theirs. I don't see some of the objections happening in the cities around us. So, I would like to assume that Gladstone would follow along in that sort of thing. Like, they don't have a problem with proclamations and just that adding disruption to their city council members meetings. And I really do think that for underserved and minority communities, this really brings a chance to hear their voices in a public forum. I did a little research, and about 25% of Gladstone is either a minority or somehow underrepresented. Again, that's from the Census Bureau. So I would like to see us at least move forward with guidelines that we could all then discuss at a future meeting.
Councilor Labonte?
Well, it's not that I'm necessarily against proclamations. I feel like we do give the community opportunities to, folks can say their 3 minutes as counselors. We can, we have our business from the council at the end of our meetings to share essentially whatever. So I think there are, there's venues for communicating your interests and what you believe to the council as it exists now. So I'm just wondering, enlighten me about the true benefit of the proclamation. And also, I'm interested in, do we have any idea as to how many folks actually will watch our meetings? Who? My close friend brought that up to me. He's like, well, who's actually watching? Do we have any numbers on that?
You mean in person?
Or do we follow that
You
at all?
can look online after the fact and see how many people have viewed council meetings after the fact. Sure. It'll show you how many.
Of course, yep. Okay. So, and that would be through YouTube, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
I would also add if, there's somebody in the community who's requesting a proclamation, I guarantee you there's going to be butts in those seats. I guarantee you they will.
Well, and that was the reason it was brought up originally, because one of the counselors confirmed that, that as it's done in other cities, it is a way of getting community involvement and engagement and a feeling of support from the council to groups in the city. I think we need a process that, we need to have some choice, some discernment. It can't be just check off a box. One of the examples of a proclamation I sent you, it can be a controversial issue in some communities, and it kind of goes beyond, as you said, if it doesn't come from somebody in this community, and that's one of the criteria that some people have.
Right.
They say, if you want us to support this, get somebody from our city to ask us to do it, not you who live outside the city. Now, the one from the Children's Center asking for a declaration of Child Abuse Prevention Month, that's a county agency close by that I know people in our city have an intimate involvement with and connection to and that we rely on. That's one that I would be more likely to approve. But we just have to be able to make those decisions on a case-by-case basis, I think. I'm hearing...
Can I answer?
Yes.
Sorry, I was just going to call you Labonte. Councilor Labonte's first question, actually. So that, I would say, if we have an underserved or minority group in this community that has come forward to us and asking for a proclamation, one, I'm going to assume they don't feel seen or supported or at some level safe. If I come up here as a singular council during business from the council and I read it, that group organization is like one person cared, and it doesn't provide the level of support or intentional acknowledgement that I believe that they're owed.
If we have people that don't feel safe in the community, then we have problems that should be addressed.
Well, a previous council member, I believe, during our last, back in August, I believe that's when it was brought up. They flat out had a conversation at one of the local elementary schools that it was a minority family, and I don't like saying that, we're underserved family, and they moved here not knowing apparently what had gone on or what the culture is here, and they said, we're leaving, we're not safe. And that's a problem to me, and I'm sure that's
How do we fix
a problem
that,
to you.
Well,
I don't
Making
want
them
people
seen
that
and heard and
don't feel
welcome,
safe.
reaching out to all of our avenues like we talked about at goal setting session.
No, I think at goal setting, one of the things we affirmed as pretty much unanimously was that helping people feel a sense of belonging is one of the things that a city ought to be about. And so there are maybe a variety of ways of addressing, the problem that if individuals don't feel that. Proclamations could be one tool, but I think, as you say, that is a concern that requires maybe multiple tools.
Well, it sounds like a safety issue. It needs to go into the safety column.
Well, yeah, I think the word safety is being used in a different way there, a little broader way.
I mean, it's not a safety issue when a child's walking down the hall in an elementary school and called a nasty name or derogatory name. It's not a safety issue when, a community member gets messages on Instagram or whatever social media saying, you're going to be deported because of the color of your skin. And it happened. It happened last week. So that's not
I think that's
technically a safety issue.
I think that is a safety issue. I agree with you that that's a safety issue. I think that, or you didn't think that was a safety issue.
I don't think a message over social media is a safety issue.
Oh, okay.
It might
I
not
just
even
mean
be
like
in this community.
Personal safety or something like that. Go ahead. I want to collect my thoughts and
I'd love for us to make a proclamation that world peace and we're done and we all get along and things are great. I would love a situation where we can make a proclamation and nobody says nasty things to anybody. I think that we're reasonable people up here. I think that we care about our community. And if we could make a proclamation that could make everything better, that would be awesome. Do I think that it helps necessarily? I'm not sure I don't know. I'm afraid that this will become a will become a political thing, and I'm concerned that that might hinder our ability as a council and our goals of bringing in community. I'm afraid that this, in fact, might do the opposite. We talk about getting butts in the seats. Perhaps it's, maybe that's not the right phrase, but perhaps that's going to be, maybe it's not just the one side that agrees. Maybe there's some issues here, and it's not that we don't care about these community members. We care very much. We volunteer, we dedicate our time, we do all these things to try to make our community better. I'm not sold that a proclamation will help, and I am very concerned that it will in fact do the opposite.
That's what I'm worried. I think that's kind of where I was trying to go with it. Is I think it's gonna fill the seats, but the wrong way. The way our meetings used to have seats filled. Councilor Garlington said, and I wrote it down, it's going to open a can we can't close. We had an issue in the past with all of these seats being filled to standing room with people in here, and it wasn't the way we hope seats are filled in here. I think that Councilor Huckabee has spoken to, and the comments were from Councilor Cook before about the conversation had with a parent at the pickup line for kiddos after school.
One example.
Right, that was one example. But if we have concerns about those people in the community, and your deportation comment you mentioned, if that's something that happened last week, those people are here. I'm worried we're going to get that side of it too, and putting ourselves in a position where we have to pick and choose who we're going to. I'll just say who we're going to proclaim, whatever it is we're proclaiming, or who we're going to do it. We're going to have to pick and choose who that is, and that puts us in a position to make decisions that really a city council I don't think has any business making. That's not our job to be putting ourselves in that position, and it's going to bring us back to the point we were at a couple years ago. That's when. Well, we all know what point we were at back then. I'll leave it at that.
I haven't seen any evidence of that in this community for 2 years.
We haven't done anything to
2
stir up
years.
controversy.
I've seen it at one city. And quite honestly, there's not anything about that particular city that I would like to emulate in Gladstone.
Councillor Mitchell?
This might be too late in the process to bring this idea up, but I was wondering if it's possible we could reach out to other cities and other councils who have implemented the proclamation process and their experiences, the benefits, those kind of things, maybe might be beneficial before we come to a conclusion on this.
I think that's a good suggestion. We did some of that outreach back in August when we discussed it then, so we had a little more understanding of, the number of proclamations that were done and the process and how they were chosen. We clearly don't have a strong consensus one way or the other on this issue. But I think what would be helpful would be if we had a process that we could vote up or down or modify as needed. I think that's easier than just talking in general terms and what ifs and I'm afraids and this might happen and hypotheticals. I think I'm concerned that we are increasingly in a climate where people who have been quiet for a couple of years suddenly feel emboldened because of some national changes that their view is okay to express now. So although we haven't seen it, like you say, some of it comes over Instagram and other sources. So I think this is one tool that I don't want to take out of our toolbox. It's not one that we've used much. There may be times when it's good to have, and maybe one time a year. Who knows? But would someone like to make a motion to direct staff to develop a policy and procedure for doing proclamations? And we can vote that up or down.
I move to table.
All right. That means you don't want to make a decision tonight.
Yeah.
All right. Chad, I'll let you be our parliamentarian on this. A motion to table. What do we do?
So there's a motion to table. You should ask for a second.
Is there a second? All right, there's no second, so the,
Remind me again, if we table it, it just does not, it does not come back?
it means we would not take any action on this tonight. We would take action at a future meeting if we decide to put it on a future agenda. All right, I hear no second.
Administrator
So
Betts, if I were to second that table motion, what would that direct you to do after tonight?
Sorry, to do what Chad and I are trying to look up. I didn't bring my rule book with me, so.
So if a motion to table would basically end the discussion and put this on the table, which basically means that there's no further discussion. Someone can make a motion at a future meeting to take it off the table and to sort of bring it back. And so, that's the procedural process that you can utilize. You could also, if you didn't want to just have this discussion tonight, you could have a motion to move it to a future meeting. There's various options you can have, but the motion to table is basically just to set this aside for now, and if someone wants to bring it back later, they would have to make a motion to take it off the table.
So it's just postponing the conversation. That's inevitable because it'll be back.
all right. Well, I'm willing to go ahead and say that we will postpone it. I will take Councilor Mitchell's suggestion and be in contact with other mayors from other cities.
Don't we have to vote on a motion to table?
He's not tabling it.
There was no second, right?
I would motion that we table this discussion until a future date in which the council thinks that this would be beneficial to the city.
So just procedurally real quick, I hate to interrupt. So before you make another motion, Mayor, would you just say that the first motion died for lack of a second, and then you can move on to a second motion?
All right. So the general motion to table made by Councilor Labonte did not receive a second, so that motion is not now. And now I'll recognize a motion from Councilor Roberts.
That we table this discussion until a time where, as a whole council, we think that this would be beneficial to the city.
Well, I don't think we would know what that time is unless we deliberate it and take a vote on it. So I think you can make another motion to table, but I think the procedure for bringing it up would be for somebody to request it to be on the agenda. Would you like to just make a more non-specific motion to table?
Yeah, we'll go with that. I'll motion to table.
I'll second.
Okay, so now the motion has been made and seconded. So Tammy, would you call the roll, please?
Counselor Garlington,
Yes.
Counselor Huckabee,
No.
Counselor Mitchell,
No.
Counselor Blaug,
No.
Counselor Labonte,
Yes.
Counselor Roberts,
Yes.
Mayor Milch.
I'll vote yes to table. And I would like to request Administrator Betts, can we put this on the agenda for our March meeting?
March is full.
Okay.
We have audit presentation, council goals. I was going to suggest if you wanted to do a work session at the March work session, we could add it then. Without spending too much staff time, we would be willing to bring some questions to consider at the work session, if that would be helpful, of what other cities do for their guidelines. Does that sound like March 25th?
That's fine, but yes.
All right.
Absolutely.
All right. I'm hearing, so a work session, March 25th, and bringing some questions to help focus the discussion a little better. That would be appreciated.
I can give you a specific example of a question. Should proclamations only have citywide significance and demonstrate relevancy to the city and its community? If you guys can give yes or no to give Chad and I guidance, then we could, if you decide to move forward, prepare some guidelines. So those are the kinds of questions that we need time to prepare for a work session, especially if we've got to get this ballot measure ready now, to be honest with you.
Okay, thank you. So are we in agreement on that?
Yes.
Okay. All right, a couple other items came up at our goal-setting session. Item number 16, is it, on the agenda? Discussion of upcoming meetings, regularity of work sessions, and meals before meetings. Administrator Betts?
Yeah, just real quickly with regards to upcoming meetings and regularity of work sessions. I mean, you've seen tonight you adopted a budget calendar, so even though you may not have a work session in a month, we've got budget coming up. We have other meetings that we're filling in there. The school board is going to want to have a joint meeting. We just scheduled the special meeting for February 25th. Also wanted you to be cognizant through the year that the budget adoption is going to be on your second meeting of the month, which is not the regular first meeting of the month. Veterans Day falls on a city council meeting this year, so we're moving that to Wednesday. So we tried to put in the calendar, the agenda planning calendar, for you to be able to look ahead on that. As we start working on an action report for the city council goals after you adopt them March 11th, we will be plugging in more dates here, so work sessions will be filling up. I think in regards to meals at the meetings, that was something also that was brought forward for you to get a consensus on, and I'll let the council have a conversation about that.
All right. It was suggested that might be a way to bring us a little bit more together if we shared over a meal together, the way we've done in some settings. I'll take thoughts. I think Councilor Roberts, you brought it up. You want to speak to it first, and then get some thoughts from the rest of the council.
Yeah, I'll just preface, and to be quite honest, I'm not super passionate about this one. If we don't reach an easy consensus, I'm okay to let it go. I just wanted to throw it out there. I thought, this is an example, difficult conversation. I know a lot of times just speaking with other representatives, people I serve with outside of the council and some of my other capacities, and just even talking to people at our city's dinners from other communities, they find that it can be very beneficial if they can break bread before a meeting, just as the saying goes. So I wanted to throw it out there, but like I said, just leave that one to an easy discussion and not make a huge thing of it if we don't get there quickly.
All right. Councilor Garlington, you have your light on.
Oh, I didn't mean to, but I'll just chime in, and I will say, as much as I love being invited to that table, my commute from my office sometimes can get difficult and lengthy, and that might not be something that I would be able to partake in on a regular basis. However, I will defer to the rest of the council with whatever they decide, and I will just make it happen.
Councilor Blaug?
Didn't we have an issue with quorum and meeting not before being recorded? And I don't know that I'm particularly interested in having myself be recorded while I eat. That's a little awkward for me.
All right. Good input. Other comments?
I agree with you.
Especially if there's people in the seats. It's just weird.
Well, I think what we're looking for is creative ways of developing community as a board, as a city. Goes back to the previous conversation. How do you make people feel that they belong and that they're included? And I appreciate the suggestion of another creative way to do that. But budget-wise, and for the reasons some others are articulated, I don't think it's that important. And you don't seem so strongly supportive of it that you're going to die on this hill. So
I support it. I just don't want it to be a hill for anyone today.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, we'll table that discussion for another day too, then, and see how things go. But again, that's why we have these goal-setting sessions. We like to get creative thoughts and ideas, and really to address things in a creative way. And so I appreciate the suggestion.
Certainly. Thank you.
Can I ask a question about a meeting? The meeting on February 25th will be the meeting that we hear what is going to be put forth on the ballot. Is that what I'm hearing?
That will now be called a special meeting.
Okay.
And I'm assuming you will have two action items. One is a resolution to declare the property surplus, and the second will be to refer it to the ballot. And so we have to have the ballot measure title and everything ready to go.
Okay, well, I am going to look down while I say this and say I would really prefer that we met in person, because I feel like if this is the first time that we are going to be introducing this language, that it needs to be done open and transparent, and some people don't feel like Zoom is that.
No, I'm fine with that. I only was thinking that if it's basically a one or two agenda item, it's not worth it for people to have to come all the way here. But I do accept that, and I think we ought to do it like any other meeting. We might not take very long. We might take a long time. Maybe we'll get public that wants to weigh in. So I agree with you. It'll be a regular meeting in this place.
And I do encourage everyone here to invite as many people as you can that you feel like Councilor Huckabee said, that they have a heart in it, and let them be here and be part of the discussion and be part of the same thing that we're hearing. And I think the more people that hear it right off the get-go, then a lot of that rumor mill will be squashed and or not even started, I should say. And that's what I hope to have happen as quickly as possible.
All right. That's been clarified. We move now to business from the council. I can't remember which side I started at last time. I will start on the left. Councilor Garland.
I have it written out. I'll be really quick. So as most of you know, there was a fire at the Blue Heron Mill on Thursday, January 30th. A video meeting from February 7th is on YouTube with Clackamas Fire and other interested parties. Specifically, there was a gentleman from the Grand Ronde that is already working on the project itself. It's really informative. If you get a chance to just put it in your background, listen to it. If you just type in Blue Heron Fire Community Meeting, February 7th, 2025, it's really interesting to hear where the tribes were in their planning and how this has definitely changed what needs to happen. And then you get to hear how Clackamas Fire has worked on making sure the fire is out and trying to help assess with some of the challenges that are going to be met or that are going to come during that. Anyway, if you get a chance, listen to that. So I wanted to thank Michelle Prusso with our community center for the heartwarming story that was shared as a result of the Lunch and Learn. Thank you to the Gladstone Police Department, specifically code enforcement. There's been some noticeable changes around town, so thank you. The school board, as we've talked about, is looking for a $70 million bond come May. More information to follow. They do have a meeting tomorrow night. The Friends of Gladstone Nature Park Arbor Day and plant sale event is Saturday, April 26, 9 to 3. Save the date. City Day at the Capitol that some of us got to go to. As a lifelong Oregonian and coincidentally on the day of my 62nd birthday, it was my very first visit to the Capitol. And no, I didn't get to go on a field trip to the Capitol. It was another reminder for me of what a privilege it is to being a city councilor for Gladstone. So I take that seriously, and I thank the city for that. And I see that our city boards are up and running, complete with new members. I saw some swearing-ins and things like that. So I just want to say thank you to all those new members, and your volunteer time is greatly appreciated. And an extra thank you to the people that have taken on the role of chair and vice chair. That takes extra time. That takes extra meetings sometimes. Sometimes extra reading, and it's just a little bit more than everybody else at times. So I appreciate that, even you, Mayor Milch. Friday, February 14th is Valentine's Day. Everyone have a happy Valentine's Day, and it is Oregon's 166th birthday. May she continue to fly with her own wings.
Councilor Roberts.
Nothing major tonight. Just wanted to let the council know that I attended the Regional Water Providers Consortium. Always a mouthful, but I'm working on getting it down. That went well. I've attended before, like I said, as a audience member, but attended most recently as a voting member. We approved their budget and work plan. Everything seems on the up and up. Additionally, as a member of the North Clackamas County Water Commission, we had our meeting a couple weeks ago, and that was a very good meeting. Much like tonight, we approved our budget calendar for the year, as well as the commission's audit. It was a good and unedited opinion, so best we could get. Everything was looking good there. There, unfortunately, are some big things they're working on getting through at the commission at the treatment facility. There's just standard capital projects due to aging and deterioration of equipment, but nothing they aren't prepared to handle. Our wholesale water rates are some of the best in the region, and with that, we're able to ask for an appropriate amount of money to cover all costs, but also an amount of money that allows us to put it away in our piggy banks every year. And so the city of Gladstone has been contributing to that for as long as we've been a member of the commission, and that piggy bank money is there for us to use as needed, and it's come in handy a couple times with capital projects. So we're not looking at anything major there, which is most exciting. It's not going to be something that will become a liability to the city. Right now it's an asset, and that's the way it plans to remain. Outside of that, I have nothing to share. Thank you.
Very good. Councilor Labonte.
Sure, briefly, as a member of the Clackamas County Traffic Safety Advisory Board, last month there was a meeting, a big task force. They're starting a task force looking for essentially a 20-year plan on improving, traffic safety in Clackamas County. A couple interesting things that come up from that. For one, just in a sense, like better reporting on the front end of crashes from law enforcement perspective, so that we can use that data to better identify potential problems. And oftentimes it's very reactive, the way that we handle improvements, engineering improvements or what have you, or even educational attempts. The idea is that with better information, we can be more proactive in that we can identify areas before the bad crash happens. The task force is run by a company out of Virginia, I believe, North Carolina, I apologize. And it was interesting, we had experts from New Zealand who have kind of taken on this approach. And also part of the approach is more of a triage after crashes, helping those after the crash with some emotional things that happen, the whole nine. I guess you'd call it wraparound services, for lack of a better word. So I just want to point out that. The Gladstone Traffic Safety Board, I was able to go to that meeting. I'm excited about this group. A lot of knowledge. Seems to be some excitement there. We get out into the community a fair amount, whether it be the bike rodeo or there's 5 events where we'll be at. So I'm excited about that. And just also want to mention, as a group of folks here, we're not always going to necessarily agree, but I hope that whatever is the outcome, that we can at least assume best intentions. We're all here to try to make our community better, and I certainly will assume everyone's best intention, and I hope the opposite can be true too. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Blaug.
Let's see. This last month, I went to the City Day at the Capitol, which was amazing. I also have never been to the Capitol before, and so that was really lovely. It was lovely to meet our senator and representatives and to share a little bit of our concerns around issues that affect our community. And then right after that was the CCEC meeting, which Gladstone is a signatory to, and It is looking at issues of belonging for underrepresented folks in our community. I guess one of the goals that I wanted to highlight was to invest in and be familiar with BIPOC histories in Clackamas County. I thought that was particularly appropriate since it is Black History Month. And if you are interested, the Multnomah County Library has some very interesting exhibits, February 15th and the 22nd, as well as various other places around town. There's some pop-ups. I also wanted to bring up that there's a town hall with Senator Wyden, not in the area, but February 15th in Scappoose or Hillsborough. And finally, the Letic retreat will be February 21st. If anybody has any interest in that, I will be bringing a report back, or Councillor Huckabee will be bringing a report back on that. And I believe that's everything I have.
Thank you. Councillor Mitchell.
I just wanted to take this opportunity to say that I also attended City Day, and also my first time at the Capitol. I'm seeing a theme here. But I wanted to thank staff for organizing our participation. I wanted to thank the League of Oregon Cities for putting on the event. It was very entertaining and very interesting watching state government in action and getting to meet our representatives and senators and essentially get an idea of what they do all day and every day and just how much they do for us. Thank you.
Councillor Huckabee.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, it sounds like a whole bunch of us have received some neglected government education or field trips back in the day, because it was also my first time at the Capitol. So that was back on January 28th. I don't want to repeat a whole bunch of everything that has been said already. It was just fun to see Representative Hartman and Senator Meek in their element and meet their supportive staff. It was a very busy day because of national level items at the Capitol, and it was a lot of hustle and bustle going on there. And along with Councillor Blaug, we attended, where'd my note go? Oh, here we go, sorry. We attended a workshop put on by Clackamas County Equity Coalition, and the workshop was regarding the Cultivating Belonging in Clackamas County. It was a research justice study project, and the workshop was to collaborate with like-minded community members on implementing the report's action items. It was very well attended, and there was even a need to add additional seating for the breakout sessions. And their volunteers are compiling all of the ideas, and we'll report those out at a later date. Is that all those notes? Okay. Sorry, I had a lot of notes tonight. And then I will go on to say, yes, it is Black History Month. And I just want to read a quote. I think it's relevant, Black History Month, and honestly could tie into our proclamation discussion. It was made by Kay Whitehead, which is the president of the Study of African American Life and History. And this was regarding the creation of Black History Month. I think Black folks understand that they had contributed to America's historical narrative, but no one was talking about it. No one was centralizing it until 1926. Black History Month is an opportunity to celebrate the massive contributions that Black folks have made to building America. More important, it is a great time for non-Black individuals to take the time to learn Black history and acknowledge that Black history is American history. Thank you.
Thank you all. Councillor Blaug mentioned that Senator Wyden has a town hall coming up. Senator Merkley, our other Oregon senator, also has a town hall coming up on February 23rd. That's a Sunday, I believe, so you can find information about that. I'm grateful to all of you who attended the City Day at the Capitol. I have been to the Capitol before, but I did not go to that particular event. But I know that right now, I'm especially grateful to the folks that we pay as a city and other cities pay to keep us informed on all the legislation that comes before our local legislators, and also the impact of things going on at the federal level to our cities. So I've watched the Friday LOC legislative updates at noon are a great resource. They're a good place. You can ask questions. You can get updates on bills that reflect the policy priorities of cities in this state, and also get some good advice and awareness of some of the legal issues on actions taken at the federal government level that have been fast and furious lately. And that reminds me of a statement I made at City Council many years ago. Back in, I think it was around June of 2018, what was in the news was families of immigrants who were being separated, parents from children at the border, and it was a topic of great concern to many in the community. And I reflected on the fact that sometimes when we talk about local government, we talk about citizen involvement and including citizens and engaging them in our community. But the word citizen can have a couple of different meanings. And for some people right now, when we talk about citizen, they're thinking about United States citizen, legal citizens, people who have, have birthright citizenship or naturalized citizenship or whatever. And I think the statement I made at the time was, no matter how I may use that term in a meeting, to really refer to residents of our community who are involved in the process of helping us make decisions and, giving their input to us. It's important to emphasize that all residents of our community, whether they are legally United States citizens or not, have the full protection of our police force. They have the full availability of the services of our community, and that we serve all people. I know that this is a time where there is some fear among people who are concerned that their citizenship status might determine a little bit about their future and their security. And I want you to know that, speaking as mayor of this city, I believe we are committed to all of our residents. If you live here, you are a Gladstone resident, and we are with you and you are with us. So that's all I have. I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilor Labonte, seconded by Councilor Roberts. Tammy, will you call the roll, please?
Counselor Blau.
Yes.
Counselor Mitchell.
Yes.
Counselor Huckabee.
Yes.
Counselor Garlington.
Yes.
Counselor Roberts.
Yes.
Counselor Labonte.
Yes.
Mayor Milch.
Yes, we are adjourned at 9:07 p.m.